Welcome back. I'm doing even more questions for atheists because even though I usually find questions for atheists videos incredibly tedious, I'm finding this one wildly entertaining. It's a long one, there's a lot of questions here, and I'm really taking my time getting through it, but who knows, I might actually push all the way through to the end. We will see.
All the miracles,
Hold up, just to be clear, all the miracles collectively, as evidence for God, are crammed into 1 second of your video. This is a video for atheists. As an atheist, apparently I'm supposed to listen to that 1 second where you say, all the miracles, and go, right, of course, all the miracles. Why didn't I think of that? Derp. Of course God exists. You could have at least brought up a couple. That's what I'm trying to say. Then there'd be something to talk about instead of me just ignoring it and cutting to the next part like I'm going to do right now.
all the miracles. I have a personal relationship with God.
Much like with the near-death experiences, I don't doubt that you believe that. People of all different religions have very strong connections to their religion. It feels very important, it feels very real, it feels very deep, very personal. I understand that that's the nature of religion. That's not something I'm debating here. It's just that I don't think you fully considered the full range of possible explanations for that, which has become a repeating theme throughout my response. I think you're picking out an explanation that feels good to you and dumping all the other ones without a moment's thought because they're just not appealing. And before you try to accuse me of doing the same thing, there's a big difference between saying, a phenomenon exists, I have a feeling, or there's something about the universe and I don't know how it got there, and therefore that necessitates God, and saying, yes, I acknowledge you have a feeling, and yes, I acknowledge there are things we don't know about the universe. You can propose God as the cause, but you can also propose this and this and this and this and this and this and this, so maybe we should take a step back and think about this. What indication is there that God must be the explanation to the exclusion of all others? These are very different approaches.
Because when I asked, I received. And a lot of my prayers come true.
Any examples in particular? Okay, let's say that you get a cold and you're feeling really, really bad and you pray to Jesus and you say, Jesus, please, I feel so awful. Please take away my cold. I can't stand these sniffles. And then the next day you wake up feeling better. Does that count? Or maybe your car runs out of gas on the side of the highway and you go, oh no, how am I going to get home? Jesus, please help me out. I need some help. I'm stranded on the side of the road. Please help. And then 10 minutes later, someone drives by and pulls up in front of you and says, hey, you having trouble with your car? And you say, yeah, I ran out of gas. And he says, give me a few minutes. I'll run down the road to the station, fill up a gas can for you. Does that count? Or maybe you want your favorite politician to get elected, and when he's elected, you say, aha, my prayer was fulfilled. And when his opponent gets elected, you say, God damn you, Satan. Or maybe you pray to get that big promotion, and then you get it, and so your prayer was fulfilled. Or you don't get it, and you say, well, that doesn't mean anything. I only said a lot of my prayers come true, not all of them. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about here? Maybe not, but until you bring up some examples, that's what I'm thinking of.
Some people, they say, I don't know, might be getting off topic. Some people say, well, I prayed and the prayer God didn't answer my prayer, so there is no God. No, God always answers your prayer. It's either yes or no. Nothing happened? Well, the answer was no.
So that's very reliable evidence then. If it does anything or doesn't do anything, it's evidence of God. Or at least evidence that prayer works, or a lack of disconfirmation. Nothing that happens disproves the hypothesis.
God is omnipresent. He hears all your prayers. So if nothing happened, it's probably a no. So your prayer was answered. Or maybe it didn't happen right away. It is going to happen later. Give it some time. God knows the right time to answer your prayer. It doesn't have to be repeatedly.
So just to be clear, if we observe that prayer does not produce the results you want at a rate any better than chance, other than maybe in internal things, making yourself feel better because obviously it's akin to meditation or self-reflection, and maybe that helps to adjust your attitude or even increase your motivation and help you get stuff done possibly. But things in the external world that are not affected by your personal feelings or your personal actions, if we observe that your prayers about those don't come true at a rate any better than chance, well, that doesn't tell us anything about whether the prayer worked. It just means God's answer was no, or not right now. There's totally good evidence for prayer working, as long as you don't actually care if it works and you give it infinite free passes. And then you can brag and say a lot of your prayers come true, because probably some of them come true. That's almost a guarantee if you pray enough, unless you keep praying for wildly improbable things, which you're probably not.
God is not our personal butler. He's not a genie.
Okay, fine, but if he doesn't show his presence by any means that's actually verifiable, he can't exactly be upset when I don't believe he's there, can he? And you can't exactly be upset when you bring up prayer as evidence for God's existence, and I reject it because it doesn't actually work. Just saying, well, I know it doesn't seem to actually work, but that's because it did work and God said no. You know that's not convincing to someone who doesn't already believe it. You know that, and you perfectly well understand why. I know you do, because you wouldn't accept that kind of argument about anything else. So why would you even bother trying to get me to swallow this kind of nonsense?
And the only way to rub him the right way is to repent, stop sinning, pray, read the Bible, put love in your heart, faith.
I feel like we're getting wildly off topic at this point, by the way. This is supposed to be questions for atheists, and now you're telling me how to rub God the right way? Like, look, can we save that until I actually believe in him? I know you probably think the prayer thing was a home run for some reason. You probably think you've converted about half my audience by now. I have my doubts as to whether that's true. But as for me personally, I'm far from convinced at this point. In fact, I'm less convinced than I was when I started your video. Maybe we should just leave aside this stuff about how best to rub God until we're at least at the point where we've agreed that there is in fact a God to be rubbed. Not really.
Plus, the Bible says Satan is the ruler of this world. And if you see, and with spiritual eyes, you can see that's true, because if you're an atheist or agnostic, pay attention to the attacks on Christianity always in movies, shows, even video games, cartoons, books. Notice how they're always attacking Christianity, making fun of Jesus.
So let's look at the argument here. The argument is, quite a few people find amusement in making fun of your religion. Likely because these are things in American media, primarily, and it's a major institution in American life. But regardless of the reason, people find your religion amusing and they make fun of it. Therefore, Satan exists and is the ruler of the world. Well, no, that's not evidence of Satan, that's evidence of people finding your religion funny. Like, you gotta do a little better than, people are laughing at a thing I like. And they laughed at the Twilight movies, too. And Joe Biden's stuttering. Donald Trump's orangeness. Wokeness. Are these caused by some supernatural ruling force, too? Or is it more that here in North America, we have kind of an irreverent satirical culture, and people like to just make fun of things, sometimes even just to get a rise out of people? Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's especially controversial to say that artsy types, actors, Hollywood people, TV people, California tech people who are behind stuff like Netflix and Amazon have a distinct statistical tendency towards the left. I'll agree with that, and of course the outcome of that is that there tends to be a lot of media that leans more left and less media that leans more right. And of course in the United States there tends to be some overlap between the left-right gradient and the religiosity gradient. So you do end up with probably a bit more media that's willing to poke fun at Christianity than media that isn't. But of course this is far from an across-the-board thing. It's absolutely not universal. And more importantly, you don't need to invoke some literal satanic influence on Hollywood and TV shows and video games to explain it. The cultural history of those industries and of different regions of the country is more than enough to explain it.
Why? Think about that.
I already answered that part, I guess. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. But again, you're asking, why is it this way? Why is there more media nowadays criticizing Christianity or making fun of Christianity than there used to be? Or why does it exist at all? Why? Think about that. To which the response should be to actually think about reasons why that might be. That's the question you asked. That's what you've requested we do. But what you want is for us to go, yeah, why is that? Therefore, Satan. The thinking step is skipped. If we see a slant towards one particular way of interpreting your religion in media, we're supposed to just instantly leap to the conclusion that Satan rules not only the media, but the entire world, as if Hollywood and video games represent the entire world.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Hello, sorry. Something happened.
Did your brain short out for a second?
So what was I saying?
I don't care.
Yeah, and using God's name in vain, it's everywhere. It's everywhere in movies, shows. I see it in video games where they say, Jesus Christ. Why would they use that as a cuss word?
Okay, well, for one thing, I don't think that's even what taking the Lord's name in vain really means, right? What would be blasphemous and offensive is to say, I swear to God I won't do this thing, and then do it. Or to say, in the name of God, I command you to XYZ, and tell people to do some awful thing. I'm pretty sure that's what's meant. It'd make a whole lot more sense than God being upset that you said, Jesus, when you stubbed your toe. Now, as far as the actual reason why Jesus Christ is an expletive, I think the actual origin of it is lost to time, but let's take a couple guesses. So the first would be that it's exactly what you say, that whoever first started using it thought it was taking the Lord's name in vain, and they did it to be kind of edgy and offensive, much the same way as fuck you, or go to hell, eat shit. You know, you talk about people now intentionally making fun of Christianity or making light of it or saying things that Christians find offensive, and it's not as if that's brand new. So that's one option. The other option would be possibly it was the pious people that popularized it. You know, they see something bad happening and they say, oh, Jesus Christ. And they're invoking the name of Jesus Christ, not mockingly, but for help. Do I know which one of these it is? No. Do I know for sure it's either of these? No. But as for why people say it nowadays, even people who aren't Christian, well, the answer is the same for why they use any expletive. When you say fuck, are you literally thinking of fucking? No, when you use an expletive, you're not thinking about the literal meaning whatsoever. It's just a thing people say. I use all these things. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. God damn it. For Christ's sake. Not because they mean anything to me, but because when I was growing up, they were extremely commonly used to express what I want to express. That's how language works. You pick up on how people express different things, what words they use, and then you use them too. It's not exactly complicated.
You know, out of so many characters, to you, a fictional character, Jesus is a fictional character? Why you constantly uses his name as a cuss word?
Yeah, it's pretty baked into English as a cuss word, yeah. England's a Christian country. Go figure they would talk about Jesus a lot.
Think about the dates we use, BC and AC.
I'll give you a second to correct that before I make fun of you.
You know, that all pertains to our Lord Jesus Christ.
Okay, you're not going to correct that. BC and AC, what? You said a stupid thing. Okay, I'm done.
Even the date, the time, had to be changed when he was born. Think about that.
Wait, when do you think the calendar was changed? When he was born? Weird, whatever. So a bunch of Christians get in power, Europe starts turning Christian, and Emperor Charlemagne decides to start pushing this obscure dating system called Anno Domini, and so it starts to become popular and become used over the centuries. Because why not? It's an extremely Christian culture. And then we just kept using it because, it works. And there's a lot of Christians still. People seem to like it, or at least not care that much. I mean, I'm an atheist and I don't care either. In fact, I'd rather you just keep using it because having to change all the computer systems to use some other date system would be really, really annoying. If you think Y2K was bad, watch out. It's not often I see this come up as an argument because it's such a terrible argument, but it does come up, and I'm always surprised when it does. Like, what level are you at intellectually that this confuses you? Like, I could understand maybe if you're a child going, that's weird, why do we talk about everything in terms of when Jesus Christ was born? And if someone says to you, well, it was put in place in Middle Age Europe, then you should go, oh, okay, I get it. Never mind, silly question. But instead, you're utterly dumbfounded by it, and you use it as an argument for what? The existence of God, the reality of Jesus, that atheists believe in God, I don't know. Whatever it is you're trying to argue for, it's not a very good argument.
Let me go back to more questions for atheists.
I think that would be best.
Something I heard. Now, do you believe that a building...
Oh my God, you don't even have to finish that sentence. You know you already did this one with the pencil, right? We've been through this. Why are we going back to it?
A building had a builder, and if you're an atheist agnostic, of course you're going to say, yeah, we do believe the building had a builder, you know, because how could it build itself? Where did it come from? You know?
No, that's not why I would say that. That's not the argument. And more importantly, you already did this. We've been through the pencil example.
That's right. A builder does have a builder.
A builder has a builder. Not what you meant to say, but I guess you do believe it. Well, all the builders except one have a builder, I suppose.
Or a painting. How do you know a painting had a painter?
If we're just going to retread ground here, you mind if I go get a snack? I'm kind of hungry.
You'll also, you know, if you have some intelligence, you'll say, yeah, of course a painting has to have a painter. How was it painted? Again, creation. How do you know all this creation in the universe had a creator? Because how could it create itself?
Okay, I'm back. I tried to be fast. What are we talking about?
The pencil doesn't create itself.
Ah, yeah, right, well. Figures.
The
Yeah, so
galaxies
anyway,
don't
while
create
he's repeating
themselves.
himself,
Thousands of
what have you guys
different
been up to?
species
I haven't been
of
around the
animals,
Discord that
humans,
much.
plant
Sorry
life,
about that. I'll
the
try
perfect
to
ecosystem, the
spend a bit more
fine-tuning of
time
the
in there
universe.
in the coming weeks here.
They don't create
Just
themselves.
been doing other stuff.
You
Wasn't
guys
really in the
believe in
mood for
magic.
chit-chat too
Come on,
much.
guys.
That happens from
I
time
love
to
you.
time.
Atheism is from Satan.
Oh, I think that's something new. Back to it.
You guys are gonna go to hell.
And how does that make you feel?
I don't want you to.
Okay, cool. Hey, maybe you should get on our team then. We're working on a plan to kill this god guy. Save ourselves from his monstrous ways. Can use all the help we can get.
We have a soul.
Do we? You going to elaborate on your reasons for thinking that, or...?
How do you think we're animated? Where our consciousness comes from, our awareness, intelligence. It's the soul.
I kind of love how every single one of your arguments is nothing more than God of the Gaps. Therefore God. Or in this case, therefore soul.
You think this matter? Just this flesh we have? Look at this flesh.
Ew. Put some gloves on. Have some self-respect, you freak.
This flesh is creating intelligence, consciousness, awareness. All the emotions like love, anger, curiosity, creativity. How about when we dream? Think about dreaming. When we're unconscious, we're dreaming. That's our soul. We have a soul, guys.
I figured I'd just let that play so you can get the full argument. It's a pretty complicated one. I didn't want to interrupt. Look at the love. Look at the dreams. Therefore soul. I guess if your question is the brain responsible for human thoughts and emotions? Yes. You can completely change a person's personality by giving them drugs that affect the brain or damaging the brain. It's a fairly clear connection. If you want to show it's not connected, go right ahead, make your case, but you have kind of an uphill battle.
And when our body expires, we're either going to go to heaven or hell.
Nuh-uh. There, I refuted your argument with one equally good.
There is no, I'm just going to be non-existent for eternity, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, there is. Why? Because I said so. How could it not be? Look at the love. Look at the dreams. How could it work any other way? Clearly, there's no soul.
Atheists, they seem so happy that, yes, we're so happy that we believe there is no afterlife, that we're just going to become non-existent for eternity. Really?
No, happy's overstating it. It's definitely better than your thing with the hell. I'm really glad I don't have to live in terror and paranoia about this God thing. At least death in and of itself ceases to be something to be worried about. I am a bit worried about the dying part. Depending on how it goes, it could be very unpleasant. I'm not sure I want to go through it. And if at that point there's someone who relies on me or cares about me, I would be somewhat concerned about that part. But there's none of this wrathful torture monster stuff. And so I think, overall it's a much more comfortable thought. I don't have to worry about some terrible eternal consequence for me or anyone else. Death really doesn't make anyone happy. Very few of us, anyway. But there are degrees of badness.
Does that really make you happy? You pretend you are. You're not happy.
About death? About ceasing to exist? Well, no, not really. If I were happy about it, I'd already have just done it. I'm not suicidal, but I'm also not scared of it. I've been dead before. So have you. In 1,000,000 years, I'll exist in exactly the same state as I existed 1,000,000 years ago, which is to say not at all. And it's just not that big of a deal. It's not a joyful thing. It's kind of an interesting thing to be alive and experiencing things. I'd kind of like it to go on for a while. But on the other hand, I recognize the necessity of death and that it's a part of life, and that really none of us have a choice but to stoically accept it, because no matter how much you don't want it to happen, it will.
I was an atheist for a long time. I became a born-again Christian at the age of 37. It took me a long time. I was in your shoes, You guys are not happy.
Huh. That's interesting. What made you so unhappy? Are you just talking about death, or are you talking about more than that? What was wrong with your life that made you feel that way? Having grown up as an atheist, to me, it's just the normal state of things. It's not anything to be unhappy about or happy about, really. You just deal with reality on its own terms. But it sounds like you had trouble doing that. And then for some reason, apparently you're applying your problems to me. Very odd. I would be curious to know more.
All of you have an existential crisis that you're filling up an empty void with drugs, probably sex, pornography, work, money, yourself. You worship yourself, probably.
Can I propose maybe that the problem wasn't that you were an atheist, but that you were a dumb fuck? It sounds like you were living a shallow, unfulfilling life, and it made you feel shallow and unfulfilled. Also, you were worshiping yourself? What the hell does that mean? That's weird, dude.
You're filling up this empty void. It can only be filled up with God. You know?
No, just don't waste all your fucking time doing drugs and watching porn and whatever the other things are you said. Working all the time, thinking about nothing but money. Of course that's going to make you miserable. And then you pile on top of that apparently massive narcissism, worshiping yourself, and you wonder why you're unhappy. Look, I'm happy you made yourself feel better, but I gotta say, what it sounds like you actually found is just some excuse to make yourself cut out all the nonsense. If you hadn't found God, but you'd still cut all that out and started doing something actually worthwhile, you'd probably still feel better.
You might say, yeah, I'm happy. You're not. You're just getting temporary pleasures from dopamine hits from this dying world.
It's such an amusing stereotype. Look, I agree. In terms of mental health benefits, there's not much to shallow pursuits. Drug addiction, workaholism, sex addiction, porn addiction. I don't think there are very many people out there who can live those kind of lifestyles for a very long time and still feel good. Call me a fuddy-duddy if you like old-timey insults, but I kind of agree that there's not much benefit to it. I think there's great value in learning to be skeptical of the things that popular media and advertisements and so on tell you are all important and cool and fulfilling and so on. You know, it's very easy when you're growing up to think that drugs are super cool and drinking all the time is super cool, that having sex is the most important thing that can possibly happen to you, that your career is the defining feature of who you are and it's the most important thing that you can possibly spend your time on, or that it really matters that you have the latest and greatest and coolest and flashiest objects. It's really easy to fall into these ways of thinking. Our society, especially big corporations that want to sell you something, love to push this crap. And I think a part of growing up is learning to figure out what's actually of value to you and improves your life in a real way, and what you're just doing because you were told that it was important, or you were told that it was cool, or you just believe it matters because you were surrounded by that messaging. To come forth with this stereotype that that's just how atheists in general live is absolutely absurd.
You know, it's just dopamine hits. You run out of something to do, onto the next dopamine hit, and then onto the next dopamine hit.
Says the guy who was just telling me about what he sees in movies, shows, video games, cartoons, and books.
And then, you know, that's all it is. And then you just die. Everybody you love is just going to die and become non-existent for eternity. Why even raise your children? Why even teach them ethics and morality?
Because she's going to be alive for decades and decades?
Who cares?
I do.
You know?
Oh, and she does, and everyone else she has to deal with.
It's all going to go. Why did you even create children in the first place if you're an atheist? How selfish and weird.
Selfish? Why? It's probably more of a benefit to her than it is to me. But yeah, why do anything, right, if it's not permanent? Why build a house? It'll probably just get knocked down in 100 years. Why get a car? It'll probably just stop running in 20 years. Why get a dog? It's just gonna die. Why put a video up on YouTube? The company will probably just go out of business eventually. Why go on vacation? It's not like you're gonna live there. Why read a book? You'll probably just forget you read it in 50 years. If it's not gonna last for infinity years, then it's not worth anything to you right now. What a completely dumbass perspective. This is the kind of moronic version of nihilism that you're trying to discourage people from doing by telling them not to spend their lives doing drugs and having sex and spending all their time chasing money. But now you're trying to legitimize it. You're trying to say, no, that is the right way to think. If you're an atheist, anyway. Nothing's gonna matter forever, so what the hell? Screw everything up right now. And what do you think, you're making the world a better place by talking like that? If you convinced every atheist on the planet of this today, would that be helpful? But then again, I guess it doesn't matter, does it? I guess all that matters is that they convert. And if you need to try to convince people that the world is hopeless and devoid of meaning to do it, well, fuck it. At least maybe some of them will feel hopeless enough to convert to your stupid religion. Consequences be damned. Because the world's not gonna last forever, so you might as well just trash it.
You know, I believe in we're just gonna become non-existent for eternity, but let me create a bunch of children.
Yes.
Alright guys, again, I love you. If you don't love me, I don't care, I love you still.
If you say so.
I want you to go to heaven. God bless you and your family. Thank you guys for watching.
Well, that's finally over. That was starting to drag a bit there towards the end. Thanks for watching. Please give the video a like and click subscribe if you haven't. Enormous thanks to every single one of my supporters on Patreon, Subscribestar, PayPal, and all the rest. If you want early access, sign up to the email list at list.logicked.com, and I'll see you next time.